And so without further delay, I will now turn over the floor to this week's presenters, Daisy Wu and Zihao Chen, for a musical demonstration and discussion. Take it away.
Thank you so much. Okay, can you hear me? Good? Yep. So good morning, everyone. This is a two-person presentation. We have divided the topic between two parts. So each of us, Daisy Wu and me, Zihao Chen, and each of us was approached through our own area of expertise. My background is in visual arts, painting, drawing, and installation. Daisy Wu, my co-presenter, is a brilliant musician and inspiring art teacher. So I feel truly honored to be here with Daisy and then work together. As artists and educators, we are always thinking about how this exchange, can be informed and reach our classes and practice. So today's lecture is a presentation of those ongoing dialogues. So I'm feeling very happy to be here and share this with all of you. Thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. Yep, I will go first. Yep. Okay. I know everybody wants to come here to listen to Daisy's music, so I will try to hurry up, okay? I will try to hurry up, all right. So the topic for today was inspired by the casual conversation between Daisy and me. In her office, one day, Daisy showed me 2 bags of her frameworks. I bring to here. Oh, sorry, that's a 2 big bag of this. I didn't bring everything because there's a lot of work.
I do it.
Yep, I'll just do one, sorry. So those are left over from her old office and trying to do with these images. And she asked me what to do with images. And then I saw these images. I realized that they're all reproductions of traditional Chinese paintings. So as you can see, I'm always deeply interested about those Chinese images because the philosophy concept, of course, I come from China. But when I look at it, and then my first reaction is that doesn't look right. So why we would say that? Why it doesn't look right? If we look closely at those images painting, we might not feel any problems. They are beautiful images. If you look at the details, the seams, the visual expression of each figures over there. So what is the problems here? But because it's beautiful, so the problem lies, it's like, okay, what are we looking at it? So let me show you some comparison with the original work. I can tell that they are cropped from the original version of it. So almost all the focus of these images are putting into figures and events. Right now, when we look at those frames, my argument is that they are disconnected from original idea of seeing those images. So what is happening? Which crucial ways of seeing has changed and overlooked? So from this small observation has led to my talk. From Daisy and I started to ask those serious questions. As culture evolved over time and acts across different contexts, they become detached from their original conditions and undergo process of translation and reinterpretation. So how should we look at this today? What has been preserved? All right. So let's return to those images. I picked 2 images to do a deeper dive, to compare with the images with you. So the first painting I show you here, the title is Han Xizai's Banquet. It was created by the painter Guzheng during the 5th Dynasty period. It's almost around 1,100 years ago. So this painting can be understood as the ancient Chinese paparazzi documents. You might think of it as something like a Hollywood spy film or House of Cards, if you know that TV series. It records the scenes of a main figure, Han Xizai, hosting a gathering in his home. There are 47 figures, including officials, dancers, musicians, servants, and a monk. The fragmented images only show out the part of this story here. So let's jump in. The emperor sent the court painter, Gu, to secretly observe and document Han's private life, capturing moments of indulgence and entertainment. But beneath the surface, there's a subtle political tension at play. Han was highly capable politician. At that time, his country was declined. China during this period was not unified. It was during the 5th Dynasty and the 10 Kingdoms period. So this situation lasted about 70 years. Nearly 50 emperors rose and fell across different regions and regimes. In such area, the higher one rose in power, the greater the danger. Han already recognized that, his country is going downfall. So he wanted to protect himself. He don't want it to be in the court. He wanted to get rid of that situation. So he performs a role as almost like party guy in the painting, presenting himself as someone immersed in party almost every night. So the emperor wanted to observe and evaluate him. This is why painting takes the form of hand scroll, recording Han's behavior across different moments within his private space. Oh, okay. Yep, so here's a painting here. You see, the painting divided into different sections, but Hans is in all different sections. So he changed his clothes. So sometimes he's even showing his bellies, trying to feel like, oh, he doesn't really care. So he's doing this kind of party over time. So it shows different notion of time within what appears to be continuous images. And next painting, so his name is Listening to the Run in the Spring Mountains. Was created by a painter from Qing Dynasty, which is 300 years ago. The narrative of this painting is very simple. So it shows the musicians playing the music instrument like run in the mountain. But compared to the original work, you realize that the crop music, crop figures, those images, only little part of it. So it's people over there. They are tiny. It's very tiny over there. So looking at the painting, music sinks to faint, almost dissolving into environments. In this scene, the world behind the figure carries far more weight than the event itself. So Daisy will talk about the music part later. I will carry on. So I hope that we already have some little idea about why those frame images selectively choose focus on events while concealing the underlying logical themes. So a large proportion of that has been lost, played a crucial role in teaching us how to look at those images. So today, I'm going to focus on three themes. One, public image system versus private spatial experience. Second, enter the image, how space is constructed. Third, usefulness of useless, blank space and emptiness. So interestingly, when I was researching those images in website, I found it also very difficult to search those images because their original images were too long, large, so I only see the fragmented part of it. So I can ask this question, perhaps these images are fragmented because their original formats are too long, and there must be cropped to make them more accessible for the original, more audience, general audience. But then why they are so long in the first place? And this idea of being inconvenienced for everyone to look at it leads to my first theme today. These are two types of environments I think we're pretty familiar today. Those are space and system designing for the public viewing of images. On the left, we see this gallery space we're very familiar with today. So those space, everything has been carefully considered and curated. The height of the wall, for example, the space between artworks, where we begin, where we pause, and where we exit. It is designed to construct a public experience while also establishing relationship between artworks through spatial arrangements. On the right side, we see the earlier European model, salon system. So painting was densely hung over the wall, often covering the entire surface. The vertical arrangement reflected the hierarchy of importance. Larger works and those placed higher were sometimes considered much more significant. In order to be seen in such environments, artwork often relies on the genres, the size, the scale, the colors. So those are very important factors for their images. Ancient China also has a system of a public viewing. For example, the folding screen here. This is a form that appears within interior space as a piece of furniture. So function as a spatial divider. At the same time, it's also an image. It exists both as a furniture and as a pictorial surface, combined into daily life and architecture space. Allowing the viewer feel as if they are situated within the landscape itself. My next example is the mural painting. So such as those images I found as Mogao Cave share a certain similarity with mural in Christian churches. In both cases, they are embedded with religions, with ritual spaces and functions as a visual system intended for public to look at it. However, unlike the artwork in gallery or salon system, I think the big difference is that those Chinese art forms were not meant to be viewed as individual, discrete works. Instead, they function more like a visual environment. So there's no space, fully formed frameworks dedicated to viewing, analyzing, and comparing images as independent objects. So here's some very common art forms I'm showing you here. And we have like folding screens, murals, album leaves, fan paintings, long horizontal scroll, and hand scroll, etc. But today I will only focus on the long scroll painting because that was almost like most representative art form for a lot of art historians to talk about it. So the physical scale of scroll painting can vary significantly. A length of around 3 meters is quite common. While a larger work can be extended much further, most scroll can reach 204 inches, and those monumental ones, it can reach around 393 inches. So I put a little figures there so you can actually kind of have a sense how big it is, how to look at it. So now, let's try to imagine how to look at it. So I will read this environment for you. So when we look at the images, I will reading okay, what kind of atmosphere if we try to look at this kind of work. The most common setting for the hand scroll is a small gathering of people with tea and wine placed on the table. In a quiet indoor place, a long table is cleared, and the scroll is placed on the surface. 2 or 3 people sit along one side. The painting is not open at all or at once, but slowly unrolled. One hand moves forward while the other gathers. What has already been seen? What appears before you are already just a small section in the middle. Viewing follows the movement of the hand. Our body leans in and out. The gaze constantly shifting. There's no fixed point of view. At times, you pause, exchange a few words with those behind you, and then continue. Time slows down, and there's no clear beginning or end. Only a continuous unfolding here. So the process reveals that while traditional Chinese context, viewing was also the form of small-scale social activity. So in fact, no authority decided how we look at this kind of form. So it's all because of the materials, the body, condition of use, and the social structure. Long scroll is typically made of paper and silk, material that are thin, very sensitive to moisture. So rolling them up makes them easier to store and to protect. So at the same time, the lens prevents them from fully displayed in space or seen all at once. So experience of looking lies not in what it seems, but in how it is experienced at this moment. So now we think about how to enter those images. I try to show you guys about, the art form, how to look at it. What is the interaction between the audience and with the works? Now, let's jump in a little bit more, thinking about how to actually walk through the space. So in the traditional European system of image making, for example, linear perspective, light structure, and geometric form are fundamental elements that construct this space. Together, they create a very convincing visual world. I select the one paintings here to show you. So linear perspective determines the viewer's positions. And when we look at such a painting, we're often struck by this level of details. And if the space before us is something we could step into it, and our eyes move into the depths of the images, and we can locate the vanishing points over there. The black dot is the vanishing points. All lines covering toward the vanishing point align with our eye level, clearly defining our positions here. So we stand outside the scene and looking in. So with those traditional Western space, there's a stable viewpoint. So when I'm standing in front of it, I know what I'm looking at, the space. Everything is more static at this moment. So this creates a stable view and unified visual space. Light and shadow also help us to locate the time. So you can tell that this is morning based on I search in the Google. With this angle, if you look at the plaza, St. Marcos, you can tell it's like morning. This is the southeast sides. But now let's look at those Chinese traditional painting. The logic's almost entirely different here. Your eyes everywhere, the positions everywhere. So first, I want to talk about the multi-viewpoints. Unlike linear perspective, this system was never formally defined. It is definition giving letter through scholarly interpretation, which means that actually this kind of name, multiple viewpoint, doesn't really exist in the ancient system. So in classical Chinese painting, there's no fixed point of view. It means relationship between the viewer and the image is not stable. This image does not unfold through the single vanishing point or focal point. Instead, it pushes the viewer to keep enter the space. You keep coming in and out. And then during the act of viewing, to find their own position within. I will lead you to one example here. So what we're looking at here is a section of the painting called Along the River during the Qingming Festival. Measure about 208 inches long, very long piece. It depicts scenes of everyday life in Bianliang. That's capital of the Song Dynasty, one of the most prosperous city in the world at that time. It still exists today. So when you look at the images, so you can see a lot of people on the street doing their own business. So our historian says it's often considered one of the earliest cities in the world to reach the population of 1 million. So you can tell through the images, thinking about how many people they have here. So that's the first images. So I put my little icons over there. So that's I wanted to I can kind of like actually focus on that area. So I took let's begin by following the bridge with me in the painting. So we can see lively street scenes. At the entrance of the bridge, the perspective appears almost like a lifted sheet of paper, flattened and tilted. It seems to flatten the structure of the bridge. From this angle, it feels like we're all kind of looking down right now. So then we start to move our eyes. But as our eyes move towards the center of the bridge, the image shifts. Our vision becomes aligned with the bridge, extending horizontally toward the opposite side of the bank. So we're looking down, and then with the angle of the bridge, it's suddenly giving us the idea that we couldn't see the other side. So extended our vision to the other side of the bench. And then we reach the far side. The perspective shifts again. The space opens up toward the viewer, allowing us to see the full sense across the river, according to our real-world logic of perspective. So the far bank should appear more compressed due to distance, but here's unfolds toward the viewers. On this little journey, we notice that our eyes are constantly moving within the images, while our body, standing in front of it, cannot settle into a single fixed point. There's too many of it. Besides, we realize that there's no shadows at all. Compared to the Western painting, we realize there's no any shadows on the building, the people, so we can locate the direction and time without the light too. So sadly, multiple viewpoint never become the fixed set of rule like a linear perspective in the West. Right now, it's very difficult today to really use this system in the stable or consistent manner. So in contemporary Chinese art education, it is often only discussed as a style rather than as a system or methodologies here. Sometimes I use this to show my student work, but it's really hard to show the system, how we organize together in such long, scroll painting. Jump into my last concept, blank space. So, or we might call emptiness. My entire presentation unfolds these frame images when we look at those. And there's one detail worth noting. When these works are placed into modern frames, the background elements in the images are often first to be cropped or overlooked. And this is where the issue begins. When Daisy and I were discussing images, one of her students, Max is here today. So he made a very good point in the conversation. He said, this images seems to overemphasize the importance of the figures. I agree. The judgment is accurate, actually. After being cropped, these images turn to emphasize on what is happening. But what about those parts that has nothing happened? We might overlook the most important element, the surrounding space, through those frame images. So these seemingly insignificant spatial elements are what eventually shape how we understand the works. Let me show you some artist example here to explain this. So let's go back to this painting again quickly. It shows important philosophical ideas that it conveys relationship between the human and the world. Human figures and events appear in much larger environments here in this painting. From common view habits, it might be seen to be weaken the subject matter. Even the subject of this painting called Listening to the Run in the Spring Mountains. But if you actually look at the little figure that is very small, you can almost ignore what is happening there. So space is no longer a background in those paintings. It becomes the conditions that determines everything. My second example is from the Song Dynasty painter, Guoxi. Artists of Song Dynasty period approach the study of landscape with very almost like faithful attitude. They closely observe the structure and atmospheric changes within the nature, respecting what we might call internal logic of form, and so to construct the complete and convincing spatial world within the limited pictorial surface. When viewing work like this, we encounter the crucial concept of classic Chinese painting. Blankness is not just empty. So in Guoxi's landscape here, if you look at these images, so those unpainted part elements, they all usually described as the mist, air, moisture, and overall atmosphere shaped by seasonal change. In other words, this blank area not outside of images. They represent the very aspect of the world that are most difficult to show directly. So in my opinion, when I look at the Guoxi's painting, I think about those period of time. I will argue that Guoxi is suggesting that landscape is not about tree plus the mountain. Instead, it's the air. The air defines what is landscape it is. So that fundamentally shapes our perception of landscape and the natural space. My last artist today is the Yuan Dynasty painter, Ni Zan. He lived in the 14th century. Also, this is around 600 years ago from now. As artists come later from Guoxi, so Ni Zan's use of blankness is not longer the presentation of nature. It becomes a quieter, more reified, and even carries a sense of detachment. This empty space functions more like a kind of breath, right? Breathing, like how we kind of live everyday life. So within the image, the rhythm, or a qi, I think if you play Tai Chi and those you understand that qi is about, it's not about how fast you go. It's about how slow you can become in the environments. So it's not something that can be directly seen, but something sensed through the act of viewing. Seeing is like the act of breathing. In this work, the distance between the trees, the shorelines, and the distant mountain are expanded a little bit. You can hardly rely on perspective to understand how to actually enter these paintings. But it's precisely within its deep continuity that painting forms the breathing structure, the pulse, interval, and continuations. A fun fact is that I look at the research into Ni Zan. So our historian talking about Ni Zan as someone who pursued extremely refined and meticulous way of life. So in any other word, you can imagine that he's the kind of guy that will ask you to wash your hands before you get into his house. And then you better take off your shoes. You know, he will mad at you if you touch his stuff. So I feel like this kind of character in his painting shows in his painting. And the distance they constructed are connected to this desire for purity and control. So now we come back to those paintings, look at those paintings again. So I believe that we feel a little bit different right now, looking at those like framework, because we're thinking about the space, we think about the philosophy behind, we think about perspective. I hope it becomes clear that for you why I begin by questioning the way they are viewed. It's actually the presentation, the whole idea comes to a very little moment in my life but I feel like looking is very important. It's always sometimes overlooked. That's how I tell my students too. Even after I discussed about those work, but these images are still nice to look at it, right? Their current presentation can fit very well within our contemporary living space, like this kind of box spaces. It fits very well. And also compared to those traditional formats, this kind of formats that allows them to adapt the modern print culture and the digital circulation, I assume. So this is all good actually for the nowadays. But my question is that when they are viewed in this way, do we still need to see them in their entirety? Or perhaps, more importantly, does their original model of viewing is still matter? The original ways of seeing is still matter to people. I began to realize that in this process of modern translation, what has changed is not only the image itself, but our way of perceiving space and time. We're no longer into these images. Instead, we move across their surface. If you really think about our relationship with those images right now, it's a classical Chinese images. If you look at it, it's nice decoration. But something is missing here. That's why I always interested in my practice and so talk to my student in my class. I think about looking sometimes it's easy, but sometimes it can mislead you to somewhere else. So what are we missing here? That's the sort of my question here. So Daisy will continue the conversation and bring another perspective as a musicians. I know you all guys are waiting for the Guzheng play for a while. So thank you so much. That's my part. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much. So, yeah. Can you help?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Can you hear me? So I thank you so much, Zihao. You did a good job because when we we all both born and grew up from China, and we are so honored to be a professor here at Alfred University and teaching art and music, and I'm also teaching Chinese language now, and we have a Chinese language and culture minor program, which is not only about language, not only about music or art. We talk about the general culture. So that's why sometimes as a musician, I always want to look about. So this image actually was my own pending, now pending is my artwork in my office. And one day, Zihao visit and he said, "Oh wow, this is so great. You have so many." And he said, "Well, this is not right. This is not the way we present. Remember, the Chinese painting, this original painting is not high in the wall. Should be this way, Daisy. There's no wall and this on there, right? So oh yeah, such a good point of view. Then we talk. I remember the day Max was there, right? So after his class in Herman, and we have a discussion. And then actually Zhang very kind of thank you, Zhang asked me to do the Bergren Forum lecture. He was thinking about to give a lecture of the Guzheng to show the instrument, right? So I was planning for that, but after our discussion, I feel wow, that's maybe a hot topic, a topic we like to talk instead of just showing Guzheng the history, culture, music. I think that's just kind of this discussion between Zihao and I. We have a very interesting think about how art, for whom, where, and how it's changed. We are from the East, from China, and how this be normally hanging on a wall, but from an artistic view, that's just wrong. So the Guzheng I play, if I ask the people there, he's a zero player. I ask him, he said, "No, Daisy, the way you set up is not right. We don't set up like this. We don't have a chair like this, right?" So how we back to the history and to talk about our art and how we think about the art has been formerly very much changed. Bottom? Keyboard, okay. All right, so take a Guzheng as an example. I only a couple minutes, so thank you. I would skip very fast. So just give an idea about Guzheng. I have a picture of here because usually I hate to play like this. I hope I always, before my presentation, I always show, hey, this is a Guzheng, like look at this. So that's people can know how is the string set it up. Guzheng has 2,700 years at least history, and was very popular in China. And here, give a little example about how the Chinese instrument, like melody instrument. So the earliest was 9,000 years ago, the Bergren flute, which is have like a whole 7 note like notation. And I mean, it's very amazing. So we be told when I was in college in the middle school, music school, my professor just like take this picture, like the Bergren flute as a like a history of Chinese music. So it's like 9,000 years of history of music of China. So we were proud that we have 9,000 years of history of music. So why I have all these paintings with me, and because 9,000 years of history of Chinese music have all the instruments, but how long you're all professors, how long our history can be seen or heard, really can be recording. Like what's the date back to the photography was like being had? 1970, right? Yeah. Thank you so much. How about our video recording later, right? It's also like so it's all in 19th century. No more than 100 years, right? So all this, I have this. Why I have this in my office? Because as a musician, I have to think about our history. So here, this is why how we do our research. We cannot hear because there's no recording, definitely. So 9,000 years of music history of China only be heard 100 years, right? So, and then 8,900 years not being hearing or seeing. So that's why we go to this, thanks God, we have art. So the visual art, you help us to do research, to see how the forms. So see, I have all this. The first is the Chinese origin of the Guzheng, which is we call zheng back then, like only 5 string or 7 string. So there is no stand like this, just sit in the ground. This also from Dunhuang, is like a cave, like Zihao just mentioned, right? So this one, and this one is also 5 dynasty, like Han Xi Zai Ye Yan Tu, the long square painting. That is the same time. And the 5 dynasty, they're years. I have no, I have touch here. So I see this part. is the down. You can see the story, right? So this is like a very short, so not like a big like this, right? So it's already like a 13 strings. So instead of like sitting on the ground, we have like stories. So then have from a solo to what? To a little, is a group of performance. Like you see the flute, you see the drum, you see the Chinese harp. Here, so is Lingan Pipa. So all this ensemble back the 10th century, right? 10th century. And also in Song Dynasty, there is another image of the zheng. So how can we know how back then how the instrument looked like? We cannot hear, but fortunately we can sing it. So this is the standard nowadays. The Guzheng 21 strings. It's just about the history is about no more than 100 years. This size, this version of Guzheng. So I have all different versions of this instrument, all called Guzheng or called zheng, but they are not the same. I don't want to say they are same instrument, but they are what they like transform from the history. So, like Zihao said, why we present this today, we have a deep think about how art survived and what this change makes. Why music and art in Chinese, visual art and music, so related together because we have fundamental the philosophy. So here, Zihao talk about the space, the we call 留白, which is reserved, the black. So I talk with Laura, maybe Max, with in the class. There is a great thinking about the Taoism from the 41 chapter of Tao Te Ching. Lao Tzu said the 大音希声大象无形, which is the greatest song without many notes. And 大象无形 is the greatest form without shape. The greatest form is shapeless. So in this Taoism concept, we have all this something the music. First, this is our music score. Very ancient Chinese score. So you cannot read from here to know what the music is. It's just showing you how to play it. We call 简字谱. This is not a typically Chinese character. This is 3. But this is like you use your finger to touch the string of number 3, right? So if I have this one, this character, is your left hand. You use your left hand, thumb. What does it mean? What does it mean? Laura. What's this Chinese character? Max, can you see? 七, what 七 mean? 7, yeah, 7th. So you touch the 7th string. Use your thumb. What that mean? Thumb. So use your thumb to touch the 7th string. And this is left side. And right side, this is again what? 七, right, Laura? 七 means 7, right? So you plug 7th string, use this, we call 托. What 托 mean? Yes, right side, right hand thumb. So this is what you said. Use your left. For example, if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, this is a plug. So give you an example about this one is about, if my instrument is a chin, this is the plug. There is no way to know how long, how short, right? If we have music, we know quarter notes, 8th notes, 16th notes, right? So that system, there's no way to understand what is the long. And also, here's the Chinese. This is the score, but the intro telling you what's this. There is no space for punctuation. So no punctuation, no reason mark. So you have to figure out by your own. So that's as important as a teacher. So that's why Chinese respect our teachers more, very much. So you don't understand because you have the score, you have the instrument, you don't know how to play it, how long. No, you have to go to the master. So the master tell you, okay, dang, 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 breathe, da, 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 vibrato. So you have no phone to record it. You don't even have a pen to make a note. You know the note of this long, but this short. No. So that's what? The freedom. Your own creation. That's your piece. That's your own creation. So I hate to say, well, this is don't judge like Eastern, Western, but it's just different system, right? So people, no doubt, they love to have this way to present their, so because music at that time is not a performance. It's not an ensemble, even not to show at all. to cultivate yourself, like you eat your own like corn or pepper, so you don't have to wait your corn or pepper to this is half pound. No, when you make your own meal, do you see the script? Half pound of this, half pound, no. You do by your own, right? But music here at that time, you do by your own. Play it. So I play it after like my meal, like just like I drink water, I play a piece of music, right? That's the function. So think about the function. So here, this is the function. That's the different function. So how we have discussed this, okay, so because of different function, so the way we changed a lot. So okay, sorry, too small. What happened when the tradition enters a new cultural context? So first, I think two major differences between the modern Guzheng and the old Chinese Guzheng, because first, I think instead of like play one hand, like my right hand just give music note, my left hand give lots of flavor. Okay, if without the C. So, or, so this all about our left hand give rhyme. So called right hand give note, our left hand give you soul or spirit, right? So when we play this, is the, like the technique of both hands cross the bridge, left hand, the left side of the bridge, right hand, the right side of the bridge. So we keep this tradition for thousands of years. But after we learn, there's a piano. Okay. We have our tenor. Later we play okay. We have our recording at our class. Let me see. Dan, can we like pull the my students? This is our last night our rehearsal for our spring concert. This is Melody Miller. Okay, here's Max, here's Laura, here's Christian. Yeah, we were rehearsal making it faster. So showing how from this to that, this is such a big step, right? But so then I feel like this is my surf in Lincoln Center with Asian Culture Symphony. I feel like my surf is in the new frame, right? In the new frame with a background of the full orchestra, concert orchestra, right? So how this instrument fit in with that environment, how this works. So then also think about the distance. So how you feel? You heard it, right? So you use feel my breath. Do you? You feel my breath, right? So this picture actually from my friend. Actually, she took this one because that was very expensive. I think it's a $500 ticket. Yes, because he wants to be in the kind of like a good place, right? So see this picture. The lady here is me. Right, so $500, but so far away from me. And the sound was from a microphone. It's not from original, from this instrument, right? So I was just think about this, quite interesting. And then I feel like I should take a picture for my surf as an artist to think about how distance make this music. So I have my phone in my pocket and take this right before the concert starts, like this. Like this, right? So I show, they're just like about to come in. So look at the hall. So I always ask by people, my friend ask me, Daisy, where is the best place? I've been playing in 2 different halls of Carnegie, and I've been 2 different halls of Lincoln Center, and etc. And how was the acoustic? I told them, the best acoustic is to sit beside me, in front of me, right? That's the distance. That's how close you're with them. Like you see my finger and you look at my finger, how my muscle like tense, or how my relax, how my breath, how my like feeling. So this is, I feel like how, okay, I hope this works. I don't know. Carnegie Hall. 그러면 actually it's a very modern piece. You know how nowadays music goes so far to the modern concept. Technique, I use this part of the. Yeah, just give you a little example. Later, I fortunately with this small bird, we call yaji, which is a little gathering. So how people close to me, I rather than to play in this small element like today we talk, right? So one note far between another. So the set of the bell was the one set I played in Carnegie Hall with the orchestra. So we moved the bells to Max, you know where it is, right? China Institute. We have the Chinese Spirit competition there. So this in New York, China Institute. Okay, here's another yaji we call the elegant gathering. So versus to the concert hall, last night we had a rehearsal day, but we like to enjoy our together. This is Laura, first freshman year, yeah, and easy with us. So we had a Guzheng rehearse, and then we had a kind of like a fun party, right? So gathering together. So we talk to each other at this water, no alcohol. So yeah, this is how we think about it. So how we react and decently in the concert hall or close to each other. So this is some new tradition besides the concert or big venue. So we're trying to at least this kind of like a moment we call this one is Chinese like literature salon, which is called 雅聚 or 雅集, which is kind of like a elegant gathering. This gathering we try to kind of like back to the tradition of Chinese like culture, like Zihao showed in the like all the paintings, right? So have poem, like calligraphy, tea, drawing, and music. So unfortunately, me and some who are close friends, we just like building this tradition and bring it back. So we can both in the old school way to give people how like closely to connect each other by art, but also can have that kind of like entertainment or that kind of like a music industry to like far to the future and way back to your tradition, right? So I was very fortunate to be here to show you the new gathering. So this one also, I enjoyed this so much. You see, this is in Library Congress, the hall, right? It's very amazing. So this one was a Chinese calligraphy pen, and painting show opening. So I was invited to be there to have a playing. So I enjoy this kind of like a short distance discussion very much. This is one of this is what Zihao and I came here, bring us to here. But this is also why we're here, because we want to have a little open discussion, Q&A, right, and discussion to, as artists, educator, how we face the challenge of AI. So I don't know how long I get to use my finger instead of like this. So I heard from here, so I trained myself 40 years to be professional, to be fast, to be accurate. But this envelope, actually, you have it in. You're 100% right. Because you gotta have some form, like the programming. You can play as fast as you can play, as amazing you can, right? If I wear this, I go to all the competition. I win the top of the world, right? Is that mine? So I was so nervous when I kind of like prepared this kind of like thing. Should I bring this to the end of our lecture? Zihao and I, we both have the idea about how, as an educator, what's our future? What's our future? What's our next step to do to embrace, to bring all this together? But I was tear out when I was put a makeup on myself. This morning, when I just about to carry my instrument, thank you, Dan, to lend me the screen because I have a computer problem. He lent me his personal ones. I was just finished that one. I feel like I've got an answer. I was so nervous. I was like so badly thinking, what's the future of this? But at that moment, 11:10 this morning, I got the answer. When I prepare my presentation, I tell you to see my breath, right? At that moment, I think about the word breathe. As long as this breath is mine, not his. My breath. We still can have our own art. It's not machine art. It's my breath art. So I don't need that glove. I don't need to be top fast of the world. Because that's not mine. I think I got the answer. So I cried out. I said, Daisy, you cannot cry. And then, yeah, that's why I told you how sorry I'll be a little late. Because I said, Daisy, are you here? So I'm late because I cried out. I feel like I found an answer. Thanks so much, John, for this forum. So through the couple months of discussion with Zihao and I myself, I did a lot of research to want to give a good presentation here. But then now I relate, because on the process of learning, researching, and also I found the answer. I have my own breath. So we all have our own breath. So our students, our faculty, everyone, to see how valued we are. So that is my lecture. Questions? Zihao.
Thank you both for a wonderful and insightful talk. It is 1:15. I've got an appointment at 1:20, so I'll ask that anybody who has questions for either of our wonderful presenters, feel free to migrate on up and ask away, and see everybody next week. Thank you again.
Thank you.